So let's get into it. Yeah, welcome back to the channel, everyone. My name is Mike, and I go by DJ Access, and today we'll be talking about tips to hosting events during the pandemic. And I want to start by saying that these tips and opinions will be based on the status quo. So I know we all have our opinions and thoughts about the pandemic, but as business owners, I believe we have a responsibility to our clients and co-vendors to act on the direction of the virologists at the CDC. And if you do not subscribe to those ideas, this may not be the video for you. So I just want to throw that out there. I like a good conspiracy theory. I like alternative, looking at alternative stuff. But I think when you're a business owner, you gotta kind of go with what the status quo is, and kind of deal with that, and do the other stuff on your personal sides. But again, that's my opinion. If that's not your opinion, that's cool. We can disagree, but I'm not going to waste your time here. But in the case of weddings, these people have gathered their closest friends, family members together, and the last thing that I want is to be the reason why an outbreak goes through a group of people that have trusted me with hosting their event. And I imagine there's a lot of DJs, especially in our company, Beat Squad Entertainment, that feel that way as well. But I've DJed events pre-quarantine, so like that 1 week that we had before they shut everything down, at least in Ohio. I've DJed a wedding and then I've also DJed multiple events, but also a wedding afterwards, after quarantine. And I've read up on this, and I just wanted to share my tips. So not only share my tips, but hopefully create a dialogue so that together we can stop the spread of this virus. I don't have all the answers. It doesn't even seem like the CDC has all the answers, but this virus has decimated our industry. In Ohio, we're lucky to be some of the few DJs that are working around the country. If you're a festival or club DJ, it's rough out there. So, maybe some of those people will be doing more corporate events, doing more weddings, so we can help them there. I want to give a big shout out to anyone here from Beat Squad Entertainment. This is going to be required material, so I hope you guys watch all the way through. But I always like to ask, before I get started in the material, are there any questions that I can answer just right off the bat, stuff that you want to know about? I'll be going through basics, I'll be going through tips, and then kind of the why I'm making this video. So if you got any questions, throw them in the chat at any point in time. You don't have to feel like you're letting me interrupt you. Share the video if you can. I'm going to be doing as much as I can to offer some tips, but I definitely want to make sure we got a community here. But I think that's enough rambling. Let's get into the basics. So these are all taken from the CDC's website. And maybe one fact, which I'll mention later, was taken from a news source, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the basics: when possible, keep 6 feet of space between you and other people. We've been hearing this the whole time. That's the socially distancing, the physically distancing. Wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds frequently. And when you cannot do that, sanitize your hands with hand sanitizer. And this is very important. It's got to be 60% alcohol or more. I know some of the Purells are not 60%. I know the Kroger main brand does have 60%, so that's okay. But when you can, guys, try and wash your hands with soap and water. It's going to be most effective. And then if you're between interactions and can't wash your hands with soap and water, hand sanitizer, that 60% alcohol will work. Obviously, avoid touching your face with your hands whenever possible, and wear a cloth face mask properly with both your nose and mouth covered. So avoid touching your mask and using the strings to remove and to put the mask on. And one of my physician friends says one thing that's not being done is to sanitize your hands before and after you replace your mask. So it should be sanitized, place on, sanitize, and then when you're removing, sanitize, remove, and then sanitize again. So make sure you find some hand sanitizer. You're probably going to be needing a lot of it. I know that's going in my gig bag. And I actually want to let you guys see kind of what I'm looking at here so you can follow along. Bam. Wash your mask after each use with hand soap, dish soap, or detergent. Any of those will work. It seems the easiest way is to have a little dish, throw some water in it, throw some dish soap, mask, let it hang out for a few minutes, maybe a few hours, maybe overnight, and then just air dry it whenever you need. Maybe you got multiple masks and you kind of cycle them out day by day. Other basics: the virus can be spread by people who are not showing symptoms. So it's in your best interest to assume you and everyone around you has the virus. So even if you've been tested, you can still contract the virus moments after you test, and there is evidence to suggest that people can be reinfected. That's the only thing from these list of basics that I did not get from the CDC. That came from CNN. They interviewed a girl, and she had her positive test from April and then had another positive test in July after having a negative test in between those. So again, that's not coming from the CDC. That's coming from CNN. So if you trust CNN, then that's important for you. If not, that's fine too. Be on the lookout for symptoms, and the symptoms are fevers or chills, cough, shortness of breath, fatigue, muscle or body aches, headaches, new loss of taste or smell, sore throat, congestion or runny nose, nausea or vomiting, diarrhea. Basically, if you're sick, socially distance, physically distance, get a test, and try to avoid spreading the virus to those around you. Symptoms can show themselves for 2 to 14 days after exposure, and you are potentially contagious during that entire time. So I think one of the scariest things about this virus is that time period where you may not have symptoms, but you can still spread the virus. And then more information can obviously be found on the CDC's website. I'm just summarizing. So now let's get into some tips. And by the way, guys, if you want, I'm watching the chat, kind of. If you see me looking over here, that's me watching the chat. So if you have questions about what we're talking about, or how to host events effectively, or something that I said that maybe you don't agree with or is wrong, throw it in the chat and we can discuss it live. So my tips, what do DJs need to do to protect themselves, their clients, and co-vendors? Number one is have a backup. If you wake up in the morning of an event with any symptoms, you want to have a plan in place to make sure that your client has a competent DJ. So for myself, I've mentioned a few times now, I have Beat Squad Entertainment, and even before there was COVID, that's one of the reasons we wanted to get together. We all have events over the weekend. Someone had car trouble, if someone got sick, if someone, went down and broke a leg playing hoops, the morning before a show, we have DJs in place that can take their notes and do a great job. So have we used this a lot? No, a lot of our DJs are very careful. They want to be at the event. But we want to be prepared for anything to happen, especially something like one of our DJs contracting COVID. So you guys know, big Buckeye fan, so Buckeyes call that next man up, and that's what you want to have as a backup just in case you start having symptoms of the virus. Take minimal chances. So it's my opinion that you should perform the event as if you have the virus. Now, obviously, if you're exhibiting symptoms or if you have the virus, don't do the event. Find someone who you trust that can perform the event for you. But perform the event as if you have the virus, meaning be extra careful about leaving your mask on, socially distancing, physically distancing, and then also perform as if everyone around you has the virus, right? So you don't want to get sick because then you miss weeks of work. You might get your closest friends and family sick. It's just not something that anyone wants to be, right? So if you perform the event as if you have the virus and everyone around you has the virus, you're going to be as safe as possible. Now, I'm not, do people make mistakes? Are people going to slip up? Have I, touched my face mask on the front? Absolutely. We're all going to do that, but we want to mitigate the risk as much as possible. I understand that the survival rate is really high for this virus, but I've seen literally the healthiest friend I know take 2 trips to the ER while fighting this virus. I mean, this dude wins competitions for the sport that he's in, has for the last 4 years, extremely healthy guy, but, while fighting coronavirus, has taken 2 trips to the ER. And I don't know about you, but I can't continue to afford missing weeks of work. So even if the virus has the minimal effect on your health, quarantining for 2 weeks can have a significant cost to you just financially, missing weeks of work. Other tips, wear a mask. Obviously, that was in the recommendations from the CDC, and then this is going to be mandated for those of you who are in Ohio. Mike DeWine just mandated masks for indoors and when you cannot socially distance outdoors 100% of the time for all counties. So maybe I'll do an update episode with how that's been. And my advice would just to find an effective mask that's comfortable on your face. So you want to make sure it's not just a piece of cloth. It's maybe doubled up or it has the filter in it. And you may want to have multiple masks. If your event is outside, you're like me, you might sweat a decent amount. So if one mask gets a little sweaty, you got the backup mask, and then you can switch those out. One mask is soaking in the soap and water, and then you can dry it and do all the things like that. So having multiple masks is something that I highly suggest. And then bonus points if you get your mask branded with maybe your logo or your company's logo, or if you get a mask that matches your outfit. Beat Squad DJs wear suits to all of our weddings to look professional, and a mask is part of that attire. So sure, if all you have is the surgical mask, it's blue, it's on your thing, that's obviously going to be fine. That's going to keep people safe. But if you want to be a little bit stylish and a little bit more professional, in my opinion, get that branded mask, or get the nice mask that fits you really well and looks nice in pictures and other things. I mentioned this before, but add 60% alcohol and Clorox wipes to your gig bag. We'll talk about that. Actually, we're going to talk about that now. So what I've been doing with my microphone, passing the microphone, now I'm talking about me performing as if I had the virus, right? So what I would do is for passing the microphone, I want to make all my announcements away from people. And the reason being is because I don't like to talk with my mask on. So I'm going to socially distance when I'm performing my announcement. So I got my mic right here. I'm stepping away from people. I'm taking my mask down with the strings, probably after sanitizing my hands if possible. I'm going to make my announcement. This is my announcement. Everyone's going to applaud. And then in my left hand, and I'll kind of demo this, in my left hand I have my little Clorox wipe here. And so I make my announcement. I'm walking over to the person, and what I want to do is wipe from the bottom up, hold on to the Clorox wipe at the head of the mic, and then pass that to the person speaking. And then when they take the mic, I'll take the Clorox wipe, and then I'll have another one for when we do the exchange again. You want to be, I mean, this is something that I recommend anyway, but you always want to be the person introducing the next person. So I'm going to introduce someone, they're going to talk, they're going to pass the mic back to me, do their hugs, whatever it is, and then I'll introduce the next person. I like to have that. And then, like I was saying before, I got my Clorox wipe in my left hand. I'm making my announcement. Everyone applaud for the person who's going to speak. Yay. Grab from the bottom, work your way to the top, offer them this part of the mic, and then take the Clorox wipe. And that's how I recommend doing it. Obviously, if you guys have a better way in the chat, or if something comes up, I will definitely let you know. But to me, that's going to be the best way to pass the microphone. Sanitizing, in the time that those people are talking. And I think that's all I want to say about that. Taking requests by text message or by having a set of Post-it notes by your DJ table might be effective. So rather than someone, coming up to you, you got your headphones on, they're shouting at you, they may or may not have a mask on. Rather than dealing with that, I'd rather have a little tent on my table that says, send a text message to my Google Voice number if you have requests, or have a set of Post-it notes. Maybe it's on a separate table that they can write their request down, hand it to you, and then you can do your thing. Someone's mentioned adding plexiglass to your setups. This might be more of like a club environment, but if you have plexiglass in front of you, you've seen this probably at banks or at the grocery store, that's going to minimize your risk. Is it, with clubs being kind of on thin ice, that might be something that they want to do, for a wedding setup. I don't know if that's something that you can add, but if you want to be extra careful, that's one way to do it. A face mask too. I don't know if that's, and I do know that those are more effective, but I don't know if that's, too much. Again, everyone has their own level of comfort. And then something that you may experience, and I've experienced this a lot, is, you're performing an event and then someone tells you that you're allowed to perform without your mask. And I think that's tough because you want to be polite to those people. What I've said is, hey, I've been at the gym a bunch. I've, DJ'd at some bars. Those are high risk. Just for your safety, I'd rather keep the mask on if that's okay. and no one's ever had an issue with that. But be prepared for people to maybe not ask you to DJ without your mask, but let you know that you don't have to DJ with the mask on. Be prepared for that. And then finally, I want to talk about the why. And the number one, when I was thinking about why this is important, is it's our industry, right? Our business relies on people being able to interact socially. If you're talking about physically and socially distancing, that's what we do. We get people together and we make them dance, have a good time, shout their favorite songs, all these, things that are not great when you're trying to contain the spread of a virus. So, DJs, clubs, nightclub festivals, those are going to be the last things to reopen. They've reopened in Ohio, but they haven't even reopened in a lot of other places. And like I was saying before, festival and club DJs are not really able to work this summer. And I think we have a responsibility to all DJs to stop the spread of the virus. And if the virologists say that, the things that I listed earlier are the best way to do it, I think we have a responsibility to go ahead and do those. And I do understand that some people believe that masks are not helpful. But again, as business owners and vendors, we have a responsibility to adhere to the status quo while we're working. Do whatever you want in your personal time. And I will always choose to wear my mask in public when I'm not able to socially distance. And I hate that I have to say this, but marketing could be a reason why you want to use some of these tips when performing during the COVID-19 pandemic, because I believe your business will do better by proving to your customers that you're willing to endure discomfort by adhering to the status quo to protect them and their guests, right? When I was doing my wedding this past weekend and I was passing the mic with my Clorox wipe strip, I did notice some people laughing or kind of rolling their eyes, like, "Oh, come on, this guy." But for every one or two people that does that, I think the rest are thinking, "Wow, this guy is taking this seriously, and he has our safety in mind. I want to hire that guy." If this guy's willing to do all this stuff, for a 2-second interaction where it's very unlikely to contract COVID or pass it along. But he's willing to do it anyway. That's the kind of person that I want to have at my event. Like if he's that focused on that exchange, how focused is he on his music and his craft, or she in some other cases. But if you want to do more events, prove to people that you care about them. And that's all the notes I have. I know we don't have too many people in here, but I would love, if you're watching this on YouTube, that you comment. What are your feelings on, the Ohio statewide mask mandate? Have you been able to DJ this summer in your towns? Let's start a dialogue so we can start to figure out how to tackle this together. Because like I said, we're all in this together. We're all DJs. We want our industry to survive. So I think these tips and the guidelines from the CDC are going to help that. If you have any questions for me personally, throw them in the comments. I read every single one. Like the video if you found something helpful. Feel free to share it with your fellow DJs. And I look forward to reading what you guys have to say. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you can. And we do DJ tips or just a stream video just like this every Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I think that's it. Guys, I'm Mike. I go by DJ Access. Thank you so much for watching. Be safe out there and take care.